Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to what is another impromptu episode of Gills in the Blood TV. I'm recording this on Tuesday afternoon, so by the time you're actually watching it, what is currently a Sky Sports rumour may actually be confirmed. And that rumour is that we have agreed a deal with Gareth Ainsworth to take over as our new manager, replacing John Coleman, who has seemingly been relieved of his duties after just 14 games in charge at the Priestfield. Now, I want to start this episode by saying it's not going to be about comparing this manager and that manager and who's right and who's wrong in the fan base or anything like that. It's just a case of me saying, as a football club, I think we have to start getting more things right, and we have to get them right quickly as well, because this is not a good look for us, Gillingham Football Club. It's not a good look for Brad and Shannon, the owners, and it's not a good look for Joe Comper, the managing director. If you look at the facts, this is now a fifth permanent manager since the takeover was completed, Christmas 2022. Neil Harris has come and gone, Stephen Clements, Mark Bonner, John Coleman, and now seemingly Gareth Ainsworth is the man charged with trying to move us forward, whatever that may be. And I'll talk about that more as the episode goes on. It's also a third managerial sacking, if you want to put a label on it, since Joe became managing director around 12 months ago. I think it's pretty much around this time, wasn't it, that he was appointed as MD. That's not a good look. And we've done all these managerial changes, all this shuffling around, all this rolling the dice, with no stability at all, let alone any tangible improvements. If you look at the four managers, excluding Keith Millen, who was just caretaker, Neil Harris under the Galinsons lasted 41 games. That then reduced to 34 games under Stephen Clements. It dropped again to 28 for Mark Bonner. And now, most recently, John Coleman has been in charge for just 14 football matches. If you look at the timescale in terms of months, Neil Harris 10 months, Stephen Clements 6 months, Mark Bonner 6 months, John Coleman 3 months. Reduces with every single change. In terms of win percentage, 49% for Neil Harris, 35 Stephen Clements, 32 Mark Bonner, 14 John Coleman. League position at the time of each manager being relieved of their job, 8th, 12th, 14th, 19th. And like I've said, this isn't an episode for me to sit here and say I prefer this manager or this gaffer's better than this one. It's not. It's we're so far past that, it is frankly a bit ridiculous now. What it shows is that despite this constant rolling of the dice, we are going one way quickly, and it is not forwards. It is not towards League One, and something has to change. And we as fans, I think, have a right to know why our football club is being run this way at the bottom, at the end of the day. That's what it is. We've sat here, anyone who watches my channel knows we do Gills in the Pub, myself, Jack and Reese, and we do Matchday Lives and all that type of thing, and we talk about who is to blame. Is it a combination of a lot of things? Is it the players? Is it the manager? Is it the recruitment? But at what point does a light start shining in the eyes of Joe Comper and Brad Galinson? Because they're at the tip of the tree here. They're the ones with the power. It's the owner and the managing director. They're the ones that are paid the big bucks to make the big decisions. And quite frankly, on the pitch, they're not getting it right at all. Not even close. So for me, this appointment of Gareth Ainsworth has to be longer term. It needs to be one that just doesn't come with all the sound bites and the promises that we've had before. We don't want to hear, oh, we've got to get out of this division into League One as quickly as possible. We've heard that for the last 2 seasons, and we've got nowhere near it. In fact, we're probably further away from it than when we was when Brad and Shannon bought the football club. It's great to hear it, isn't it? I'm sure these things are said with all the best intentions, but They mean nothing when you keep serving up what we're being served up as a fan base and what we're having to watch every Saturday and every Tuesday. It can't be good for anyone. Most recently, I think myself, Jack and Reese all agreed that it had to be the players, we said at the time of our last recording, because majority of the group had seen off Neil Harris, they'd seen off Stephen Clements, they'd seen off Mark Bonner. Dare I say it, a couple of them had seen off Steve Evans before the takeover. But this constant chopping and changing can't be good for anyone. It can't be good for the well-being of the players themselves. They don't know who's going to be in charge from, you know, because if you look at them averages, like the average of them tenures, 29 games is the average for a manager under the Galinsons. 6 months is the average under the Galinsons. If you're a player or any type of employee in any form of work and you're going into your job and you don't know who's going to be in charge past the next half a year, then it has to be difficult for you to be able to perform at your best. And I think football's an even more volatile sort of industry than what us normal folk do. So I do feel for the players a little bit. It can't help them. I feel for the coaching staff, those that have been in and around it over numerous managers, your James Russells, your Darren Ibrahims, your Pete Gills, your kit men, your physios, people behind the scenes. It's just, like I said, it's just not a good look for the football club, and it certainly doesn't help us as a fan base. I've said it a couple of times on match review shows about how we set up in terms of our formation, and it feels like we're doing that in a bigger scale as well in terms of managerial appointments. And excuse my language, but it feels like we're taking the chuck enough shit and hope that it sticks route to success, whatever that may be, and that simply has to stop. It's only a couple of months ago that Joe and Brad were great and came on another social media platform, onto the ME7's podcast, and did a live Q&A session, and fair play to them for doing that. We've asked for years for more transparency, but the glaring omission of not having an identity or a style after this long since the takeover is frankly terrifying. And that has to be correct now. You must have that in place, Joe and Brad, before next season, before Gareth Ainsworth gets to work. Because if you don't, you are simply failing your football club, you're failing yourselves in your role, you're failing the rest of your staff, you're failing Gareth, and you're failing us fans. So that's the biggest thing for me. That has to be sorted out. There's no point appointing any manager from any level if we don't know how we want to play and we don't know what we want to look like. You simply, as a fan, you can't get excited or optimistic about it because you don't know what you're going to get. So please, please, please make sure that is in place from the moment Gareth Ainsworth sets foot through the door. I don't want to hear all this talk of we have to get promoted into League One. I don't want to see all these hashtags on social media anymore. We had Clem Ball, didn't we, a couple of seasons ago. To be fair, I think it did Clements more hindrance than good because it set him up in terms of that was what we was going to expect. And I think there's a case to say that all these false promises that we've been given over the last couple of years or so maybe have made us as a fan base a little bit more self-entitled and almost think that we're going to get promoted because we've been told about it enough. And we know deep down that's not how football works. You can have all the money in the world, but you have to still work hard and earn the right to get yourselves into them top positions. And we've been bloody awful at doing everything, haven't we, on the pitch since the Galinson's taken over. Let's not dress it up as anything different because, like I said, them positional rankings that I mentioned right at the top of the show, they're only going one way: 8th, 12th, 14th, 19th, backwards, fast. So yeah, I think what I want to hear, certainly as a fan, if and when we've had the announcement or we get the announcement about Gareth Ainsworth, don't come out and say he's going to get us promoted and we've got to win the league or we've got to get in the playoffs and be at Wembley as a bare minimum. Because I know I'm fed up of being over-promised and under-delivered. I'm fed up of spending a lot of money watching dross, And I totally understand that that's the nature of the beast when you're a football fan. You pays your money and you take your chance. And I absolutely understand that. And I've never been a fan that says, oh, we got beat loads, so I need my money back. That's the beauty, in inverted commas, of being a football supporter. But give us a plan. And if it's going to take us 2 to 3 years, tell us. Be upfront, be honest. Say, right, Gareth's going to come in. He's got the remainder of 24-25 to assess the squad. We can then make a proper decision on who's going to be offered new deals, who's going to be allowed to leave, and anyone under contract might be made available. You can then get a plan in with the help of other staff. You've got brilliant staff behind the scenes like Pete Gill, Darren Ibrahim, James Russell, and even more that we don't see on a match day. Get them involved. But most importantly, give Gareth Ainsworth what he needs and what he requires to be successful for this football club. That is what you've got to do. Don't worry about whether this is popular or this is in vogue or anything like that. Gareth Ainsworth will have been successful at Wycombe doing things a certain way. So allow him to do things the same way to optimise your chances of us being a successful football club. And we'll back that. I'm pretty damn sure of it. I know I will. Don't tell us, though, that we're going to win the title and then we end up 12th, 13th at Christmas, because that will just piss people off. You look at social media, and Wikipedia is a great one because anyone can go on and edit there. And if you're looking at it and it's not your club, it's quite funny. But someone's edited Gareth Ainsworth's profile and it says, Gareth Ainsworth is the new manager of Gillingham Football Club. The Gills go through a new gaffer every single month, or something along them lines. I mean, it's not quite that extreme, but once every 6 months is absolutely disgraceful. You cannot expect to build anything. And I know I've been guilty of criticising players, managers, everything. But I only do that based on what I see. If we go and lose 3-0 and we play like absolute toss, then I have to say we've played absolute toss. If we go and do well against a Bradford and we win 1-0 and we dig in, I'll say that as well. There's no agenda with me, and this is a little bit of self-defence here, because I do get a little bit annoyed sometimes when people go, oh, because you've got a lot of followers, people are influenced by you and the football club are influenced by you. They're not. And I'd be deeply concerned if the football club were making decisions based on what I say on YouTube. Then we're even more up the proverbial creek without a paddle. I have an opinion, whether I've got 10 followers, 1,000 followers, 10,000 followers, the same as everybody else has an opinion. None of them are wrong, none of them are right. They're just opinions, and we don't all agree, but as long as it's done the right way, absolutely brilliant. But yeah, anyway, off on a tangent there, a little bit of self-defence, like I say. Back to the Galinsons finally, before we talk about Gareth Ainsworth and John Coleman quickly. They've done brilliant for this football club off the pitch. They've come in, I think they researched what we was about, the history of the football club, the culture, the community. And community is a big thing, I totally understand that, and they've been brilliant with that. My only fear with Brad and Shannon is that they've gone so far in with this community feel that we've almost become, at best, naive, at worst, a bit soft as a football club on the pitch. And I know that's contradictory because we've been ultra brutal in terms of sacking managers, but the whole approach just seems very, very unprofessional to me at the moment in terms of approaching managers, appointing managers, sacking managers, recruitment. I said that's already been questioned. And what we have to do before we try and run is we've got to learn to walk again, and we've got to learn to get a lot of things right, and we've got to get them right quickly, because otherwise we're just going to waste another season. We're going to ruin another manager. We're going to end up belittling another playing group. We're going to end up with more toxicity on social media and fans falling out, and it's not fun for any of us, regardless of our opinion, regardless if I rate Neil Harris, regardless if someone else loves Stephen Clements, regardless if we all hate Mark Bonner or we all think John Coleman's this or that. It's not fun being a fan of Gillingham Football Club at the moment, and that has to change pronto. I was talking on WhatsApp to EFL guru Gabe Sutton about it, and he sent me one message and said the good thing about Gareth Ainsworth is he doesn't mind running the whole football operation by himself. At some clubs that is a disadvantage, but I don't know how much I trust the Gills right now to put a correct structure in place around the new man. That's quite scathing, isn't it? That's an outsider who covers every single football club in the EFL, and he's very aware of the fact that we're not being run correctly on the pitch. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of research, I understand that. So this goes back to my point about Gareth Ainsworth. Let's give him what he wants to give him the best chance of being successful for us. Give him the control, give him the tools to thrive. You can have other people helping. You can have, I don't know, James Russell looking at fitness levels. You can have Pete Gill doing the coaching side. You can have all the recruitment teams, Salim and James and Hess, giving targets and that type of thing. But for me, the ultimate decision making has to come down to Gareth Ainsworth this time. We've tried the director of football. We've tried this scouting network in the north and the south. We've gone nowhere fast, have we? We've regressed. For me, as a fan, and it might be old school, if Gareth Ainsworth's making all the decisions, then it's on Gareth Ainsworth if it goes wrong. And if it goes really well, then we say, thanks very much, Gareth. We take your measurements. We build a statue. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm only joking because I'm doing what I don't want our owner to do. But it's easy then, isn't it? Gareth's in charge. We lose 5 on the bounce, that's Gareth and the players. We win 10 on the bounce, that's Gareth and the players. It's not, oh, is it the recruitment? Is it the director of football? Is it the scout in the south? Is it the scout in the west? Is it the recruitment guy who's looking at data analytics? Is it the physio? Is it the fitness coach who's getting this wrong? It makes it easier. Football is a simple game and it gets overcomplicated, I think. And we've got to go back to basics. I think, like I say, we've got to get back to learning to walk before we learn to run. And that's what I mean about this. Give us a plan. Tell us how long it may take. And if it takes a while, fair enough, but be upfront about it. In terms of his style, I think we know it's going to be fairly direct. If you look at his successful Wycombe sides, big man up front. We all know all about Adebayo Akinfenwa, a former Gills player. I think they like to get it up the pitch quickly and go from there. They like to press high and nick the ball in the final third. They're not one for keeping the ball loads. They'll be intense. They'll like I say, they'll press in packs. To be honest, I think the best way to describe Gareth Ainsworth for me is he likes to create maybe an underdog mentality, which you saw with his Wycombe team when they went out of League Two into League One and then managed to gatecrash the Championship in the COVID season, albeit with a couple of caveats, but fair play to him. I think he manages his teams like he played the game, doesn't he? And that's with his heart on his sleeve at full throttle. And I think that's a good fit for Gillingham. And I think we need to foster that sort of underdog mentality, that little old Gillingham mentality. Get back to that. Get back to being us against the world. And that's what I mean about this whole thing where we've concentrated so much on being a great community club that it's almost filtered onto the pitch and we've become a little bit soft. And we need to get back to being little old Gillingham, us against the world, being hard to play against, being a bit nasty, being a bit streetwise, and then go from there. And we know it won't be perfect, but how many times have I said it? If you've got 11 footballers, 14 footballers, 17 footballers that are willing to play for the badge and run through brick walls for 95 minutes on a regular basis, then we'll back it to the hill. In terms of John Coleman, 2 wins in 14 games was never going to be something that I don't feel put him in pole position to get the job on a full-time basis. I'm pretty sure he's experienced enough, he's mentioned that a few times, and bright enough to realise that he's not won enough football matches to maybe justify getting the job on a full-time basis. We don't know whether he wanted it on a full-time basis as well. But again, it comes back to unprofessional. It looks like the information's been leaked because as I record this, it had been all over Sky Sports News and all over social media platforms, but there'd been nothing from either club, which isn't a great look, which probably means that John Coleman may have found out secondhand, which again, isn't a great look. I'd have given him till the end of the season. I've said that on numerous occasions throughout the last 3 months. I was happy to give him till the end of the season and then make the decision. But if the club feel that John Coleman is not the man to take us forward longer term, then I can understand why the change has been made, because it gives Gareth Ainsworth the opportunity to come in, assess the squad over the last 8-9 games, make the decisions that he needs to make regarding the playing staff. And again, it gives him the best opportunity to hit the ground running in the summer and allow us the maximum opportunity to be successful, whatever that is, relatively speaking, for 25-26. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on it. I think it's a good appointment. I think it can be a good appointment if Gareth Ainsworth is backed correctly. And I don't just mean chucking money at stuff. I mean putting all the tools in place, making sure that the medical department's correct, making sure that the training facilities are spot on, making sure that the recruitment team is spot on, making sure that the recruitment process is spot on. Because Joe and Brad alluded to that as well, didn't they, on the ME7 podcast? Have to get that right. We can't be signing one-season wonders. We can't be signing people that are potentially unfit. We can't be signing players without medicals. That is just absolutely ridiculous. But get all that right, and I think Gareth Ainsworth can do well for us. But it's a big but at the moment because of what we've seen over the last 2 years. Anyway, that is enough from me for this impromptu episode. I do appreciate you listening for the last 20 minutes or so. Gareth Ainsworth's Barmy Army, it seems it is now. So maybe we can get that going at Harrogate at the weekend. But it is only Tuesday. I'll be back Wednesday with a Harrogate fan previewing that game. And of course, I'll be at Harrogate with Ava and Nick on Saturday for another Matchday Live. But until then, I hope you've had a nice Tuesday evening. And of course, up the Gills.